broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. I see we got a decent little crowd in here. We were kind of waiting around to see if Scott might show up, but I think he's delayed right now. So it'll just be myself. Hello, everybody. I'm Jamie. I'll be your host today, along with Steve Gomez, as usual. Steve, what's happening over there?
Hello, Happy New Year, Jamie, and Happy New Year, everybody out there.
I just realized I've got the wrong date here. So bear with me.
Oh, Jamie.
I know. I was like, oh, it's the first. No, it's the third, Jamie. There we go.
It's the first day back.
You guys didn't know I had a time machine, did you? Okay. There we go. How could I forget that? It's one of my family members' birthday today. So welcome, everybody. Today is January 3rd, not the 1st, but it is the first trading day of the new year, technically. So without further ado, let's just get rolling here. Of course, we're going to skip all the polls and all that good stuff because Scott's not here today. Just a quick moment for the disclaimer. Just want to make sure everybody in attendance is aware of the fact that all the info that we share with you guys in this webinar or any of the other weekly or support webinars that we have coming at you on a weekly basis is for educational purposes only. Simply meaning, if you need investment advice, what to do, when to do it, what to buy, what to sell, all that good stuff, please seek out someone who is licensed to do that type of stuff for you. Could be a registered investment advisor, could be a Series 7 licensed stockbroker. But if you need that type of advice, please seek out a registered individual. Once again, all the info that we share with you guys for educational purposes only. And always like to take a little bit of time here at the top of the hour to kind of go over the community that we have fostered around the tech that is TI Pro. And of course, we got the trading room hosted by Mr. Barry Anderson. Now, Steve, I think he is opening up an hour before the open these days, whereas it was 30 minutes before.
I think he said he was going to increase his morning routine and be open a little earlier, yes.
Right. So don't quote me. It could be an hour and a half, but I think it's the hour mark. So that would be 8 a.m. Eastern.
That sounds
right. It used
right.
to be 8:30. So getting in there plenty early to talk about any pre-market stocks that might be shaping up nicely before the regular session opens. But just a great place to be. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced trader, intermediate, or a very new beginner. It's a great place because, number one, Barry's in there showcasing the way he uses TI Tech, along with his trading style, and doesn't mind taking questions after the first couple hours, and it dies down a little bit. But if you've shopped around trading rooms, chat rooms on the web, you know that ones that are worth their salt are not cheap, okay? Just one more added benefit to our room is that it's free. Don't even have to be a TI subscriber to get in there and make use of it. Of course, today is Monday, and you're going to get myself and Steve for office hours. We used to do these weekly, but well, after 6 years of doing them weekly, it's getting a little harder to come up with fresh content every week. So now we're going to do these bi-weekly. So every other Monday, you get myself and Steve. And on the Monday, Wednesday schedule, for example, this week, Wednesday, it'll be Dan and Brad for the Q&A demo. Every other Tuesday and Thursday, Steve will take every other Tuesday for the Trade of the Week webinar, and Andy will do every other Thursday for the Trading Studio. And of course, as always, I'll continue to ride shotgun with Andy. Of course, we do have our daily support session. Nothing has changed here. It's every Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We've got a different trader/trainer person on the mic for each day of the week. So you always get a little bit different of a take on whatever that person is interested in. And of course, you can always ask questions and get them answered in a real-time environment. The next slide that I go to here will show you how to get there. Pretty simple. trade-ideas.com/live. That is a static address. So once you get there, just bookmark it for easy access. And that's going to be coming from our YouTube channel each and every day for the daily support session. Hello there, Mike, David, Joseph. Glad you guys could make it. In addition to training resources that we make available to everybody, The TI University, this is getting pretty dated. We're probably going to go in and update these pretty soon as well. They've been around for about 5 or 6 years, but a lot of the information is still relevant, especially when we're talking about 101 and 201. Not a lot's changed in the fundamental functionality of the top list and the alert windows and things of that nature. So these are hosted on our YouTube channel. Just go over to YouTube, find the TI YouTube channel, type in TI University. These guys will come right up. Once you get the basics down, ready for some back testing and all that good stuff, well then 301 and 401 contain the advanced trading topics. So once again, from the TI YouTube channel, just type in TI University. You can start and stop these at your leisure. Definitely help you get over that learning curve a lot sooner than later. All right, here we are at today's topics of discussion. Gonna let Steve take the helm here in just a second, talk about the overall action. And there was a little bit for everybody today, a little bit of selling, a little bit of buying. So the shorts paid, the longs paid. It all just boiled down to timing. Talk about the compare counts when we get in there as well, what those are, what these readings mean. Holly had a decent day, nothing to write home about, but a positive day nonetheless. We'll go over the Holly trades. And of course, we've always got some tasty opening range breaks where you can risk a little, and if the trade goes, you might do pretty well on a risk to reward spectrum there, and some really good examples today. And then we're going to wrap it up with, I don't know, we might do sector map first, save the orbs for last. But some really interesting information was gleaned today from the sector maps, or the sector map, I should say, with the attached compare count windows. Some of you probably have this window already, and I'll make sure I drop the cloud link in the chat in case anybody wants to follow along moving forward. But some really interesting action from the sector maps with the attached compare counts. So Steve, if you're ready to grab it, talk a little bit about the overall ebb and flow of the markets. I'll kick it over to you.
Surely.
All right, sir, you should have it.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Before I get started on the market recap, Jamie was talking about something, and it made me think about today how often I used the user guide here, trade-ideas.com/guide. Okay. From there, you can come into any topic you want. I was trying to help somebody understand what the different modes were, conservative mode, moderate mode, what's aggressive mode, and all that. And rather than have a conversation, we have a wonderful new employee who has put together a beautiful, comprehensive user guide with videos and images. And so all I did was come up here to the search button and typed in a term, cloud share. Okay, how to save or share alert windows to cloud, and then there you go. There's a whole wonderful topic page on it. So if you guys weren't aware of this, it's a tremendous research tool, a tremendous help tool for you guys to find detailed answers if you weren't aware. So aside from that public service announcement, welcome to the market recap here. Let's just say what's on my immediate observation. This is not a bearish looking market. This is a strong market which just continues to defy a lot of things, but I think the market's focused mostly on what the Fed's doing and the liquidity that's being just dumped into it every single day, and that means money to buy. So there's nothing bearish whatsoever about this chart. Kind of interesting to look too. That was a wonderful example of the bottoming tail candle, how the subsequent candles after you see these on a daily chart can have nice push. That was the weekend going into Christmas. And then the market really goes to sleep as people don't know really quite what to do with themselves the week between New Year's and Christmas, which gave the market a perfect opportunity to consolidate and kind of wait for these rising moving averages to come up and test it and say, hey, are we going to start the new year off in momentum mode? We just might. Looks very poised in the SPY. That's the one that's leading us. We look at the NASDAQ, which used to lead us, almost getting back to new highs, all-time highs, but same thing over there. Just actually a perfect imprint. If you guys want to imprint of what I think a perfect daily chart looks like, is something that pushes up nicely, gives us 3 or 4 days of consolidation, and then tests. It's always even better. The bottom of today's candle in the NASDAQ and the Qs went down and tested that 10-day moving average and then gave us nice conviction on the close that that's kind of a bullish close and gives us a perfect looking flag. So a lot of congestion, probably some good pent up demand here, but this latest little area here is of very much interest to me as looking extremely bullish. But again, the S&P is leading the way. IWM, I didn't know what to think of the first day of trading for the IWM. I kind of thought it might lag a little bit, but actually IWM was up the most. SPY was up 0.6, Qs were up 1.1, and IWM was up 1.2, just a bit more. So they're trying to play ball too. As far as the small caps go, you need to have this 50-day moving average be taken out with conviction, and ideally a couple of days of solid closing candles above that blue flat 50-day moving average, because there's a lot of resistance here in the IWM to participate. We'll see what happens there. On the intraday, and it was kind of a funny observation. It's the first day of the year. We never really know if one sector is just going to take off or the market's going to take off in one clear direction or what's going to happen. But today we started the year off with kind of I call it the guitar string or a rubber band. There was the close, and then here is today's open. I'll just highlight that. We ran up to a high there, then ran down to a low there, and then let's see what happened. Back up to a high, back down to a low, and then the market said, okay, I think this is what we're going to be doing here for the first day. So kind of plucking a rubber band or a string, let the thing give it some amplitude loss, and then it kind of figures out what direction it really wanted to go. So, if you're making a lot of money on the opening hour, opening half an hour as a trader, a quick scalp trader, more power to you, because it's a very volatile time of day for sure. But then we see that the market started to figure out what it really wanted to do by the end of the day. And again, back to the original SPY daily, it's looking extremely bullish. I would not be short this market. Since I'm not going to be around tomorrow for the trade of the week, it was Zillow, and it triggered just like everything else did on the open. Boom, look at that, all the way up, and then drive all the way back down, and then kind of found its way. Nice little candle at the close there. But on the daily chart, all this tells me is if we zoom in, this thing is definitely in play. And today's candle was actually welcome because it shows that it went down, tested those areas of support, the 10 and the 20, and then bounced back up and gave us a nice bottoming tail in this. I don't know how much more cup and handle this can be for you guys right there. So the only hurdle is this declining 50, which was dominating many charts in the past. Fourth quarter for tax loss selling, a lot of them would hit that downward 50-day moving average and then retreat. I have a feeling that Zillow already gave up 50% of it back with that bad news they took. And that nice basing pattern, reclaiming the 20, holding on to the 20. And so this is what I kind of call a bird in the hand. It looks like it's maybe getting ready to take flight, but again, be prepared for sellers to be lining up there. But if we get this thing to close above the 50-day moving average, then I have faith this thing will have a good week. And that's all I
Steve,
got.
that gap down, that was all the house flipping shenanigans.
That was them coming out and say, yeah, you know that portfolio thing we thought we could do. Basically, we thought we could be flippers without leaving the office. No, you got to be hands-on to be a flipper. They thought they could just come in and acquire and sit on some assets, and after an amount of time, those assets would go up and they'd make a profit. They were dead wrong, and they had to admit that and take that loss here. So that's what that was all about. But what I mentioned was that's literally a 50% haircut from 105 down there to like 50.
Yeah,
So,
they got free money syndrome. Mm-hmm.
Constructive process in the last couple months here, and I think if the big guys are looking for value and something that's an established company, this is probably a good entry. So this is not so much a swing trade. It could be a nice, month-long quarterly trade. We'll see. The market has to cooperate, but this is a nice looking pattern. I'm going to stick with it. That's it.
It does look nice. Thank you, Steve. Let me grab the screen back here. Okie dokie. Hopefully you got eyes back on my screen now. Okay, so as many of you know, I like to monitor a wide variety of compare count windows. Of course, the first one being the one that looks at all the big cap stocks. And when I say big cap, I'm just talking about any stock with a market cap above $4 billion, billion with a B. Get that market breadth about 15 minutes into the open. So what did the big caps look like today as far as the compare count window goes today, we saw this, okay? Not really what I typically like to see. Even though it is bullish, I typically like to see 55% or better. And we were just right on the cusp today. So, right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, could be anything goes today. And of course, that's exactly what we had, okay? Typically, if I see this bias 60% one way or the other, could be up, could be down, then that does give me a lot of conviction to go in that direction um, independently, right? Or just with that direction. But when you see readings like this, could have been flipped, could have been 54% down, still the same thing. It just kind of tells me, well, there might be a little bit for everybody today. And that's exactly the way the market played out. If you were short early on and exited appropriately, you got paid. If you got long and set it out for the remainder of the day and did a little, starter positions with some things and averaged in, you got paid on the long side too. Of course, it's never easy. But when we get into the topic later, the compare counts attached to the sector windows, I think I'm going to be able to show you how to take some of the guesswork out. And of course, as we're talking about these theories and I'm showing you what happened today, it's of course no guarantee, but I've noticed it working more times than not as of late, okay? So if we can look at this for the overall market flow, and sometimes it's immediate and sometimes it's late in the day from what I've discovered most of the time. And of course, that's exactly what we had on the SPY today, right? There we go. Hold on one second. Somebody was bothering me. Let me just close that down. Okay, so here we are looking at the SPY. We had the first 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, and then whoosh, in the next 10 minutes, we were all the way down here at lows, okay? And of course, you can see what happened the remainder of the day. So there was a little bit for short sellers, long players. It was just a matter of timing. Now, I'll tell you what we're going to do here. Let's go ahead and knock out Holly because it was a decent day, all right? How many signals did we have? I forgot to put it in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fair amount of signals, not too many. 5 signals and nothing to write home about. When we look at the risk modes up here, we got conservative on the day, $123.35 based on risking $100 per position here. And you can see the gains even in conservative and both moderate. For risking $100 a trade, we didn't really even have one on here that gave us 1R. Wanted 1R, we'd have to make $100 for risking $100, but that's just the way things panned out today. So fair amount of trades, 5 trades, 4 winners, we'll take that. Just didn't make a whole lot of money today. And typically when we see the market acting in this fashion, first we had the gap up, we filled the gap, then we turned, flopped around, finally set new highs, and then, crept back up to daily highs for the SPY, just a hair away from all-time highs. So, not a bad start for Holly. On the overall lot of 5 trades, making a little over $100, but never really had to worry about anything too much. Now, typically what we like to look at with Holly, was there any chance to extract some conservative versus moderate spread? Well, here is conservative right here, moderate right here. Typically, in order for that to happen, we have to have, at the end of the day, a larger number in moderate than we have in the conservative column. Now, we do have just a little smidge in the builder short, but if we look at the exit time here, 143, yeah, we could have held it for a little bit longer here. Let me get that trade up. We can see where Holly closed the trade right about here. And if we would have held out, we could have got just a little bit more. But that is literally, $20 is the biggest spread that we have between conservative and moderate today. So for all practical reasons, it wasn't there. All right. Sometimes that happens. Trade rounds, right? Typically, these are when we have a trade that gets stopped out, and then we notice what the stock does around that stop area. Does the stop area act as a trampoline or a little area of support? And we can try to make an entry at that stop area? Well, we didn't have any stop outs today, so no decent trader rounds. And then lastly, add-ons, any of the trades that Holly produced. Were there any good add-on opportunities? Oh, I'll tell you what, let's just scroll through these real quick. All right, CF coming right here at the blue arrow. Notice what CF did, right? It was a short play, kind of gyrated down, popped back up above break even, then finally took a header down. But looking at this chart, no good opportunities to add to the position. If we would have had a nice little consolidation here for a while and then a breakdown from that point, yeah, maybe that would have been a good time to add on. We see that typically in a lot of the Holly trades, but not today and not in CF. What about Builder? Once again, short sell coming right here. The closest thing to an add-on I could see on this one would have been as it broke down right here. Could have added a little bit more right around 83.96. We'll just call it 84, which would have been decent, right? Just playing the break of the low after this little entry bar, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 30 minutes of, can't really, I mean, that's not, it's consolidation. I mean, we really didn't go any higher than the entry signal. Actually, we did, but just not tight enough for me to consider adding to it, even though it would have worked right here. And of course, you would have had to wait all day after you made that add, pecking around at break even again. It only gave it up towards the end of the day. And then you would have had to make a timely exit to really take advantage of that. So technically, that could have been considered a time to add to the builder short. All right, see the questions panel snapping around here. Is there a way to get alerts when Holly or the other AIs are taking trades? All right, great question, Andrew. So this window right here, if you notice the title of this window, all right, the all trades blotter. So as long as you have this window up, you know, before the market opens, this window is blank. So as these trades are spawned in real time, you will see them pop up here and flash. So as long as you have the strategy trades up, all, then this is the window that you will monitor because these things pop in real time. For example, first trade of the day was the MS long, about 15 minutes into the open here. Second trade, coming about 34 minutes into the open, was the NEO, and so forth, and so, you know, up until the 5 trades there, right? So that's what you want to do, have the strategy trades window open. If you don't have one currently open, all you have to do is come over here to the TI toolbar, hit new, and find the trades window and spawn it. All right, I was just seeing if Joseph's question was AI related, and we'll just kind of circle back around to that one. So hopefully, Andrew, that shows you how to get that window open so you can see the Holly trades in real time as they're spawned. All right, so kind of a decent add-on opportunity in Builder. Let's take a look at OLPX. Same thing here. A little stretched out, but hey, it would have worked. We originally get short right here, do a little sideways dance for a number of minutes. Then we come down here, we break this low right here, all right? So once this range to the downside has been broken, you know, we had our high up here, and then we came down here and popped our low well after the Holly signal, approximately 2 hours into the open. So this little area right here around 29.35-ish would have been a good time to add to the position as we careened on down to 28, looks like about 28.80 before we had this little bounce action here. So a decent opportunity to tack on a few more shares in the OLPX as we broke that downside range. All right, 3 shorts and 2 longs. Always like it when I see the AI making money short because it just hasn't been a thing occurring a whole lot here lately. Now we look at the 2 longs. course, going in reverse order as to when these trades were issued, but that doesn't really matter. So NEO getting the signal for the buy, 32.90, coming about 30 minutes into the open. You know, if this would have been a little bit shorter of a candle, we would have had a great opportunity to add on an opening range break, but due to this wick way up here, not a whole lot of, you know, not really a catalyst. You know, it was a grind up for the rest of the day. Had to sit a little bit of a, you know, once we got here, threw a little bit of an elbow, but not quite, I'd say a little bit more than 50% down to the stop area, but not a stop out. Okay, kept us in all day, eventually got back above break even, and ended up being a decent little winner on the NEO there. No good add opportunity though. All right, and lastly here, first trade out of the chute was MS, and of course, throwing a little elbow, getting pretty close to the stop area, but did not stop us out. Had a brief moment of profit taking potential here. Never really got more than 50 some odd cents out of this one before eventually started hugging the entry line again, and then before the day was out, trudged lower. So the only red one on the blotter today under moderate profit, but Holly making a timely exit, okay, in conservative mode. That's why conservative mode won out today, is because she pulled the plug when it wasn't going anywhere and flatted the trade in conservative mode. Had she held on, risking $100, would ended up losing about $70 on that trade. So nothing to write home about, but just a solid little green day on 5 signals from the old AI known as Holly. We'll see what she does tomorrow. Okay, so as always, there are plenty of opening range breaks to be had. I have a couple of favorite tickers that I like to watch for the upside breaks and the downside breaks, which are looking at stocks that are doing high relative volume. And of course, we all know that volume is no guarantee, but it can certainly help sometimes when we pick a good pattern and we have a lot of volume in it. It's like fuel for the fire. So quite a few good ones today on the long side. I got 3 decent examples. GNPX, which was probably one of the most talked about stocks on financial Twitter today, having a nice run. Then we had another decent one in Fling and TSM, and a couple of good short setups in ITOS and ROL. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. We'll knock these out, and then we'll get on to the fun with the sector map today, and I'll show you guys what happened there. Really interesting stuff. Pretty astounded at the accuracy of those things today. So without further ado, let's talk about these guys real quick. All right, let's take the boring one first. TSM, okay, Taiwan Semiconductor, been around for ages. So nice little gap up in TSM today. If we go, there we go. Okay, so we got the low down here, and then check it out. All right, I should have put a line here just to mark off the low. So we had the low and the high put in the first 10 minutes, and then we're range bound in this little area here before we just kind of creep back up, and boom, right about the 127, actually 127.12 to be specific, through my turbo brakes up ticker here. Get that stock come through, pull it up and go, ooh, that's exactly what I typically like to see. We're getting that break there. Even if you bought the top of that candle, it's fine. TSM's a big liquid stock. And then we just get a nice little cruise from 127.12 up to 129.60. Okay. So assessing risk on these entries, if this is the entry candle right here, keep in mind these are 5-minute candles. This is where it broke. I just typically look back at the prior 15 minutes, which would be 1, 2, and 3 of the 5-minute candles, and we take the lowest point. So this was the risk area right here, and the reward area is about the same. So that's about a 1-for-1 as far as risk to reward goes on TSM for just a nice, clean, painless opening range break there. Never threw any elbows, acted like it was going to stop us out. Just did what a good long we always hope it does, right? So a decent one on TSM. Nice little setup in Fling today, FLNG. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just a little after the 30-minute mark in minute 35, fling comes through, nice and tight. What do we got for risk here? 1, 2, 3. So we got a really small risk area and a nice fat reward area up there as it topped out. Looks like 23.14 to be exact. Could probably pack that risk area in there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Maybe have a little bit left over. So as far as risk to reward goes, this is typically what we like to see. Of course, we don't know how this is going to play out. We can kind of eyeball it over here and see how much room we might have looking to the left. Notice what it did. As soon as we got up to this little area right here, it wicked right back down. All right. But the potential was there for some nice profit-taking action and fling with pretty low risk on a simple opening range break here. Yeah, sorry about that, Bala. Let me just, I'll point with my, I'll just start marking them off like this just so you can see. I forget to do that sometimes. I know you can't see that arrow very well, so apologies for that. All right, and then of course the bigger one today, GNPX. This thing was just firing on all cylinders here. And I've got 2 arrows here because number 1, this area right here was the opening range break in the regular session right here. We can see the high had been put in, the low had been put in, a very tight range in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once again, that 35-minute mark here as it pokes its head above and hits that high, very low risk, and this thing just kept on going for the remainder of the day. What were we up total today on this thing since the open? Oh, just a meager 167% with a relative volume of almost 500. And typically we consider 20 million and less a smaller float. 45 million still not that big, and this thing knocked out 227 million shares. So that float flipped over several times today. And when you have volume coming into a smaller float stock like this, these things can happen. Now I've got 2 arrows here. The first arrow is just simply showing you the range break in the regular session. But what I liked about this one too is if we go back to the pre-market. All right, now you can see this arrow at the pre-market high, the first 5-minute candle of the pre-market, and a nice tight range. And of course, the opening session coinciding perfectly with that upside wick there that was put in early on in the session. So when you see things like that, when you see these opening range breaks occurring in the regular session and you've got coinciding with the break of the pre-market range, that's a good thing in my opinion. Happens to the upside, happens to the downside, especially if you're apt to take trades a little closer to the open. If we have a nice tight pre-market range like that, that can help take some of the fear away because you know what your downside is, right? There was no pre-market activity and it was a big gap up. Things can get a little bit more hairy if something gets away from you. But when you're looking at things like this in a nice tight pre-market range, it can help reinforce that decision to buy or short. All right, so a nice little mover in GNPX today, all from a simple pattern, the opening range break. And I'm watching both of these windows to find the upsides and the downsides. So I'll make sure that I drop both of these windows into the chat panel before we're done today, along with that compare count sector map that we're about to take a look at as well. Before we move on to that, a couple of good short side plays as well. Ethos. Okay. Flip my brain around here. Not so great on the pre-market activity, a little spotty there, but yeah, still some levels to take note of anyway. So here we have the first candle right here of the session, right there. And then for about, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 40, 45 minutes in. And of course, if we take a look at that time right there, yep, right at the 45-minute mark, we break those low wicks right there. Kind of hold it for about 20 minutes at the entry price, but then eventually it gives it up. Very tight risk area. If we look back, not including the entry candle, 1, 2, 3, Risk is up here. This little area right here, our risk. But we have a large reward area. This thing gave it up pretty nicely today. Does exactly what we would hope a nice short opening range break would do here. Let's check out the volume. Pales in comparison to the GNPX, but GNPX is definitely the exception and not the norm. But relative volume of 20, nothing to sneeze at, especially when we're getting right on the cusp of that low float, 26 million as opposed to 20. But when you get the volume coming in on float sizes of this nature, you can get some really good moves. This one never really even recovering. You know, a lot of stocks they got beat down, a lot of sectors that got beat down eventually recuperated and went back to highs or made up a lot of that ground, but not ITOS. Just redding all the way there. Might be one to keep an eye on for tomorrow if it sets up again nicely. So a decent short play in ITOS there. And then we had a decent setup in ROL as well. This one happened a little quicker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 25 minutes into the open. Not really any pre-market activity there to speak of, just a couple of dashes, but it's this opening candle here. We put in the low, put in the high, consolidate for about 20 minutes, and then boom, right there, right here, we broke that range and just proceeded to careen on down. Once again, not including the entry candle, 1, 2, 3, the top of that wick is our risk is up here, and then once again, we had a nice juicy reward area that we could have taken advantage of there. Only 1.54 on the relative scale. Pretty large float on this one too, but still, it worked pretty nicely there. This looks like a big move that we see here, but just keep in mind we're at the 34.15 level here and all the way down here. We could just call that about a point, okay? So it looks a lot bigger than it really is, but still a nice risk to reward ratio there. And that's what we always want to look for when we're putting on any trade. Decent risk to reward. Okay, just check out the questions panel here. Is there a help index of the type of strategy the AI is using? Okay, Steve, I see Steve dropped that for you. But while we're on that topic, if I go new, and instead of the strategy trades window, we can always pull up the strategies that the AI came to the party with today. So these are all the strategies that the AI showed up with today. And then that guide that Steve dropped a link for will give you a description of each one of those strategies as well. So you can always see the strategies that the AI brought to the party for the day, as well as the independent trades in real time. Just reading your question there, Martin. Other side of the mountain. That sounds like an Andy scan. And Hugo, the answer to your question, these are the windows right here that I look for the opening range breaks to the up and the downside. I'll make sure I drop these in the chat panel before we're done here. All right, little time check. Got plenty of time. And now we're going to talk about the sector map that I created, which is just taking basically our sector channel, but attaching independent compare count windows so that we can watch those counts of the sectors in the same capacity that we can watch big cap breadth on the opens. All right, it's the same concept. So I tell you what, let me get that layout up just so I can drop the cloud link for you guys, because I forgot to create my little cheat sheet here. And it's this guy right here. So I'm going to go ahead and share it out. And then we'll look at the action today. And then right before we wrap up, I'll drop the cloud links for these relative volume turbo brakes as well. Okay, so the same concept. I'm putting a little bit different of a spin on this one though, because I've just got a screenshot here, okay? When you pull the layout up, it's gonna be in its own container, right? That way, after the first 15 minutes or however long you want to watch these counts, you can kill the window because it's gonna come up as a docked container, so it won't interfere with your existing layout. It'll be in its own container. But just keep in mind, if you're on the latest beta and you have this thing pulled up, it might cause a little bit of sluggishness while you have this particular window open. So just keep that in mind. But it's going to look just like this, except it's going to be functioning in real time. Obviously, this is just a screenshot. But this is the screenshot 15 minutes into the open today. And we can see all of the respective sectors here. You know, up here we got XLI industrials, consumer discretionary, communications, materials, healthcare, consumer staples, real estate, utilities, financials, technology over here, and energy over here. So it you probably don't have to stare at this screen too long to go, okay, which one of these things are not like the others? Most of these things are green to the tune of well past a 60% bias. You know, energy 91%, tech 83, financial 87. Oops, utilities 85% bearish. Real estate 65% bearish. And typically what I do is if the bias isn't 60% or more, I pay it no mind. If it's 60% red or 60% green, I'm probably going to end up putting a trade on in these ETFs. This is what it looked like after the first 15 minutes. But what I've been doing here lately is I'll look 5 minutes into the open, and any of the ones they're 60% one way or the other, I'll go ahead and take a starter position in that ETF. Okay. After the first 15 minutes are done, if the count is remaining strong in the positions, the starter positions that I've already opened, depending on what the overall compare account window is doing, I will either sit with what I got or increase the position. Today, I just sat with what I had because we had kind of lackluster bullish counts, right? But if this would have been screaming to the upside, 65, 70%, or the downside, I would have added to those positions, right? So I'll start nibbling 5 minutes in based on these counts. If the 15-minute mark rolls around and the count has diminished on one of the starter positions that I opened, I'll go ahead and can it, okay? So those are kind of the broad strokes. So now let's take a look at what these things did today based on these compare count readings. I tell you what, I'll just keep this down here. All right, I tell you what, first let's look at the downside. Let's look at utilities first. XLU. Okay, here we are at the opening candle right here. This is the first 5-minute candle right here. So as soon as that candle closes and this one opens, boom, XLU short, and you can see how that played out, okay? Then it's just about picking a time or, you know, exiting when you think it is appropriate. And after we look at these downside plays, well, then I'm going to point something out that might, you know, if you try this technique in the future, might assist you in an exit if you are in one of these shorts off the open and it's working and you're thinking to yourself, well, the market's green, but this sector's red, you know, how do I pick my exit? And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But needless to say, plenty of time to exit for a winner here. You know, probably never going to pick the bottom, maybe you will, but still plenty of time to react and get out of this thing for a profit on the XLU short. Now, some of you out there might be going, well, based on the compare counts, I can see the logic here, Jamie, but is there any other allure to trading these ETFs? And the answer is massive liquidity, right? You don't ever have to worry about not getting your fill. On the short side, you don't have to worry about a hard to borrow either, right? You know, how many times have you tried to put on that good short trade in a stock only to be rejected? These things are liquid. Typically they have a penny spread, and you never have to worry about not being able to put one of your shorts on because they're these big liquid ETFs. So those are some of the attributes that make this attractive and why I'm going down this this path as of late. Okay, so XLU, not too shabby. How about XLRE next, the real estate? Okay. Okay, well, Jamie, it would help if you had your pointer active. There we go. Okay, XLRE, once again, after that opening 5-minute candle, and this little guy right here opens up, you can see what happened. Plenty of time to put that short on, not have to worry about hard to borrow, and we got a nice downturn here. Plenty of time to make a profitable exit. Okay, what did we look at last time? I'm already losing my train of thought here. Was it XLU? Yeah, XLU. We looked at that one. XLRE. So the other two, XLP was the other one with a pretty negative count. Okay, second 5-minute candle right here. Not near as good as the other ones. It's a little bit of a hiccup there, but still would have had an opportunity to exit for a profit. And of course, you know, most everything is going to do this after the SPY, you know, started playing catch up here. But still, so far we've looked at 3. The first 2 really just going our way immediately. This one throwing a little bit of a wiggle, but eventually, you know, if we're short around 76.55, there was still, you know, about 40-50 cents on the table there before this thing got back to break even. So still plenty of time to make a timely exit. And the last one with the negative counts was the XLV. And once again, second 5-minute candle coming right here. Never really made it back there. Once again, plenty of time to make a timely exit and be profitable on the XLV. So we had 4 big negative biases in these sectors, and each and every one of those trades, making an entry 5 minutes in, then looking 15 minutes in, are the counts remaining? And this is the 15-minute snapshot here, and the answer was yes. You know, so on several of these, you could have even added to that position, and it still would have worked out quite well for you. Okay, so those were the downside moves today, and of course everything else was up. Okay, so just so you know, I did pile into all these longs today, and I had a equity curve generated for the short side too, but we just looked at all those trades individually, and somehow I deleted the screenshot accidentally. But in the 7, let me just count these up here. I lost my spot here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 longs. Yes. So even if you bought the 7 longs too and had to sit that little bit of a downturn in the SPY, this is how it would have played out today. Okay. You would have had to sit a little bit of wiggle, but this is the open. This is the first pullback, second pullback, third pullback before the SPY got its chops. And on those 7 positions, I think the total was about 3 points. Okay. So this is just a very unique day. All of these readings today were accurate. Okay. Now, you know, once again, if the overall compare counts would have been a little bit beefier, probably would have been a little bit more aggressive. Okay. But, you know, based on what we see here today, the shorts made money, the longs made money, and the draw to this is just simply how simple it is. And of course, just like any indicator or study or whatever favorite thing you like to use, is it going to work all the time? No, but if you incorporate this into your trading plan, the allure is the simplicity. Okay, if the numbers are this, do this. If the numbers are this, do this. There's not a whole lot of guesswork there. There's hardly any guesswork. You see a number, the bias is above 60. And of course, this is just the way I play it. I'm not advocating that you do it just like I do. Everybody's a little bit different. But today, longing the ones and holding to the close that were above 60 on the longs worked, and shorting the ones that were below 60 worked as well. Of course, you had to make your exits accordingly because the market bounced. But all in all, very pleased with the readings that I got from this layout window today. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and understand it. If you have any questions, let me know and I can rehash it. So in the meantime, just going to drop these turbo brakes windows into the chat as well. There's the long version. And there is the short version. Yeah, I see Steve knocking out the questions. Yep, we're going to increase the pre-market time. Hopefully the coders are working feverishly on that, and it'll be done soon. All right, looks like we're bumping up at the top of the hour here. Any questions before I let everybody get back to their day? Just reading your question there, John. The battery looking thing, yeah. You're talking about these guys. I can kind of see the battery thing here. I'll flipped over copper top there. Yeah, these are the compare count windows, which allow you, these are programmable windows. And so before we depart here, let me just give you an example. So here is a compare count window. Now you can keep count of whatever it is that tickles your fancy, whatever idea you can come up with, because when we right click and hit configure, when I was talking to Chris Varley about this the other day, and he's like, it's kind of like counting cards. And he's exactly right when he says that. Just kind of like even when we do statistical back test, it's like counting cards, but for the market, right? When you go into the casinos, you used to be able to count cards, blackjack, yada, yada, yada. Well, using these compare count windows, we're simply looking at market breadth. Depending on the event that you set up, in this case, it's the bigger cap stocks. Just got to have a market cap above 4 billion, doing a little bit of accelerated 1-minute volume and hitting a high. The other side of the coin, exact same filter set, but hitting a low. So we're just looking at stocks hitting high, stocks hitting low in the opening 15 minutes that meet that filter criteria. You guys may have heard of this indicator called the tick, which has been around for eons, which simply looks at advancers versus decliners with no filtering whatsoever. So that includes the whole market. So you're counting all these obscure stocks that nobody trades included in that market breadth. But what the compare count window allows you to do is create any configuration, any filter set, any alert, and then keep count of stocks doing that in the inverse in order to try to develop an edge there. And yes, Chris McKay, this little window right here is the one that produced GNPX. And all of those windows are now in the chat panel. And that's so weird because we have a team member with that exact name. So I was like, hey, Chris is in the webinar. I'm like, what are you doing in here, dude? All right, guys, that's about all I got for today. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast when I was talking about all the compare count windows and the sectors and all that good stuff. But pull that bad boy up, check it out. We'll see what it does tomorrow, and hopefully we can get some good trades off of it tomorrow as well. Steve, anything to add before I let everybody get back to their Monday evening?
No, nothing on this end.
Okay, well, you know what? for some reason I was thinking about Scott, and since he's not here to do the walkout, I will go through the slides that he typically goes through here. All right, on the walkout here, we've got an ebook written by Dave Mabe, our Senior Director of Software Development. Really smart cat, been trading for a long time. You can download his ebook for free here, trade-ideas.com/strategy. So if you haven't done so yet, might as well, it's free. You can connect Brokerage Plus to Interactive Brokers and do all your trading through our Brokerage Plus interface. Interactive Brokers still charging a commission, but still they're very competitive. They have some of the lowest margin rates in the industry as well. So if you have an IB account, you can start using Brokerage Plus. Probably if you do, you've probably been using it already, but if not, just know that it is an option. We just released our stock race ability, which is tied to all of our top list windows. So now you can pick a metric and have stocks do a race, and pretty exciting moving forward. Lots of different ways to view the information there using our stock race option. And of course, if you're interested more in the commissionless trading, well, that would be E-Trade. Of course, you can connect Brokerage Plus to E-Trade as well. The only BD that Brokerage Plus connects to right now with zero commission. So that is the E-Trade environment. Get more info just by going to trade-ideas.com/E-Trade. And we've got a code that I think might still be active. If you do try to use this code and it's invalid, we'll just reach out to us on support or live chat.
It should be.
Yeah, but I think Holidays is still good for 15% off your first month or your annual. You can follow me at QuantBot on Twitter. You can follow Steve at TISteveG. You can like us on Facebook. This is our number, which is typically reserved just for billing issues. Oops. If you have any questions or detailed questions about the software or need help configuring, you can always email us at info@trade-ideas.com or hit us up on live chat from our website during regular market hours. All right, want to thank everybody for popping in today. Steve has an off day tomorrow, so the next 5 p.m. webinar will be Dan and Brad coming up here next Wednesday. So come hang out, come see us. Otherwise, hope everybody has a nice, profitable Tuesday, and welcome to 2022. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
I'll see you Wednesday for the live support session at noon. All right, bye-bye.